Picture this. You're in the middle of an important presentation. Your hands are trembling. Your heart is pounding so hard you can hear it in your ears. Your mind goes blank. The emotion of fear has completely hijacked your ability to think clearly. Now imagine a different scenario. Same presentation, same stakes. But this time, you notice the fear rising. You observe it like watching clouds pass in the sky, and you continue speaking with clarity and confidence. The fear is there, but it doesn't control you. What's the difference between these two scenarios? Emotional detachment. Today, I'm going to show you a method that ancient Stoic philosophers, modern Navy SEALs, and top-performing CEOs use to stay mentally unshakable no matter what life throws at them. This isn't about becoming a robot or suppressing your feelings. It's about developing a superpower that allows you to feel everything while being controlled by nothing. By the end of this video, you'll have a practical, step-by-step system to detach from destructive emotions and reclaim your mental clarity. Let's dive in. 1. Understanding emotional detachment. Before we talk about how to detach from emotion, we need to understand what emotional detachment actually is, because most people get this completely wrong. Emotional detachment is not about becoming cold, unfeeling, or disconnected from life. It's not about suppressing your emotions or pretending they don't exist. That's emotional suppression, and it's actually harmful to your mental health. True emotional detachment is the ability to observe your emotions without being consumed by them. It's the space between stimulus and response that Viktor Frankl talked about when he said, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Think of your mind as the sky and your emotions as weather patterns. Sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it's stormy. Emotional detachment is like being the sky itself rather than being tossed around by the weather. The clouds come and go, the storms rage and pass, but the sky remains unchanged, vast and unshakable. The Stoics called this concept apatheia, which doesn't mean apathy in the modern sense. It means freedom from destructive passions. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in ancient Rome, practiced this daily. In his personal journal, which we now know as Meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Here's the crucial insight. Emotions are not the problem. The problem is identification with emotions. When you say, "I am angry," you've identified yourself with the anger. You've become the anger. But when you say, "I notice anger arising," you've created separation. You're the observer, not the emotion itself. This distinction changes everything. Modern neuroscience backs this up. When you're consumed by an emotion, your amygdala, the primitive part of your brain responsible for fight or flight responses, takes control. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thinking and decision-making, essentially goes offline. This is what Daniel Goleman calls amygdala hijacking in his book Emotional Intelligence. But when you practice emotional detachment, you activate your prefrontal cortex. You engage the observer part of your brain. Research shows that simply naming an emotion reduces its intensity by activating the rational brain and calming the emotional brain. This process is called affect labeling. Dr. Matthew Lieberman at UCLA found that when people labeled their emotions while looking at disturbing images, the activity in their amygdala decreased significantly. The simple act of observing and naming created distance. So why is staying mentally unshakable so important? Because life is inherently uncertain and often painful. You will face rejection, loss, failure, criticism, and disappointment. These are not possibilities, they are certainties. The question is not whether you'll face emotional storms, but whether you'll be destroyed by them or navigate through them with grace and strength. People who cannot detach from their emotions are like ships without anchors, tossed around by every wave. They make terrible decisions when angry. They sabotage relationships when hurt. They quit on their dreams when afraid. They become paralyzed when anxious. But those who master emotional detachment, they're the ones who stay calm in chaos. They're the entrepreneurs who don't panic when their business faces challenges. They're the athletes who perform under pressure. They're the leaders who make wise decisions in crisis situations. They're the individuals who maintain their values and integrity even when emotions scream at them to abandon them. The beautiful paradox is this: when you detach from emotions, you actually experience them more fully. You're no longer afraid of your feelings, so you don't suppress them. You feel the full spectrum of human emotion, but you're not enslaved by any of it.
2. The cost of emotional reactivity. Before we get into the method, you need to understand what emotional reactivity is costing you. Because until you see the true price you're paying, you won't be motivated to change. Emotional reactivity means your emotions are in the driver's seat of your life. You're constantly reacting to external circumstances without conscious choice. Someone cuts you off in traffic and you're enraged for the next hour. Your boss criticizes your work and you spiral into self-doubt for days. You see a social media post and suddenly your mood plummets. This is exhausting, and it's costing you in 5 major areas. First, your decision-making ability. When you're emotionally reactive, you make terrible decisions. You send that angry email you regret. You quit the job in a moment of frustration. You say things to loved ones you can't take back. Research from the University of Pennsylvania shows that emotional decisions are typically short-sighted and focused on immediate gratification rather than long-term benefit. How many opportunities have you lost because you made a decision while angry, afraid, or hurt? Second, your relationships. Emotional reactivity destroys relationships faster than almost anything else. When you can't control your emotional responses, you create drama, conflict, and instability. Your partner says something that triggers you, and instead of responding thoughtfully, you attack. Your friend disappoints you, and instead of communicating calmly, you withdraw or explode. Over time, people start walking on eggshells around you or just leave altogether. The most important relationships in your life require emotional stability. Third, your health. Chronic emotional reactivity keeps your body in a constant state of stress. Your cortisol levels remain elevated, your immune system weakens, your sleep suffers. Studies published in the Journal of the American Medical Association show that people who experience chronic emotional stress have significantly higher rates of heart disease, autoimmune disorders, and premature aging. Your inability to detach from emotion is literally shortening your life. Fourth, your personal power. Every time you react emotionally without conscious choice, you give away your power. You're essentially saying, external circumstances control how I feel and what I do. You become a victim of your environment. The person who cut you off in traffic now controls your emotional state. The stranger on the internet who posted something stupid now controls your mood. You've handed over the remote control of your internal experience to everyone and everything around you. Fifth, your potential. This might be the biggest cost of all. Emotional reactivity keeps you from becoming who you're capable of being. It keeps you small, safe, and stuck. How many times have you not pursued something because fear took over? How many times have you not spoken up because anxiety won? How many times have you not taken action because doubt consumed you? Your emotions, when you can't detach from them, become prison bars that limit your growth. Let me share a personal story. A few years ago, I was working on a major project that I'd invested months of effort into. When I finally launched it, the response was overwhelmingly negative. I received harsh criticism, mockery, and rejection. I was devastated. For days, I was consumed by shame and anger. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't focus on anything else. I seriously considered quitting entirely. The emotional pain was so intense that it colored everything in my life. I snapped at people I loved. I withdrew from friends. I made the failure mean something about my worth as a person. Looking back now, I realized I was completely identified with the emotion. I wasn't experiencing shame. I had become shame. The emotion wasn't happening to me, it was me. And because of that total identification, I lost weeks of productivity, damaged relationships, and almost gave up on something that later became successful. That experience taught me that I needed a better way. I needed a method to stay mentally unshakable regardless of external circumstances. And here's what's crazy. The circumstances didn't change. I still faced criticism. I still experienced setbacks. But my relationship to those experiences changed completely, and that made all the difference. 3. The method. Core principles. Now let's get into the actual method. This is a system I've developed by combining ancient wisdom with modern psychology and neuroscience. It's based on 5 core principles that build on each other. Principle 1. The observer self. The foundation of emotional detachment is recognizing that you are not your emotions. You are the awareness that observes emotions. This is the most important shift you can make. Right now, pause and notice. You're aware of reading these words. Something in you is aware. That awareness is your true self. Your emotions, thoughts, sensations, they all appear within that awareness, but they are not the awareness itself. The mystics and sages throughout history have pointed to this truth. The Buddhists call it witnessing consciousness. The Hindus call it Atman, or the observer. Modern psychology calls it metacognition, the ability to think about your thinking. When you realize you are the observer, not the observed, everything changes. You can watch anger arise without being angry. You can observe fear without being afraid. You can notice sadness without being sad. This isn't just philosophy. There's a practical exercise to develop this. Throughout your day, practice saying, I notice I'm feeling X instead of I am X. Instead of I'm anxious, say I notice anxiety arising. Instead of I'm angry, say I notice anger present. This simple linguistic shift creates psychological distance. Principle 2. Acceptance before action. Most people try to fight their emotions. They try to push them away, suppress them, or convince themselves they shouldn't feel what they're feeling. This is a mistake. What you resist persists. What you fight strengthens. The path to emotional detachment goes through acceptance, not resistance. You must first fully accept the emotion exactly as it is before you can transcend it. This is counterintuitive. How can accepting an emotion help you detach from it? Because acceptance dissolves the secondary suffering. When you feel anxious and then feel bad about feeling anxious, you've doubled your suffering. When you feel angry and then feel ashamed about feeling angry, you've compounded the problem. Acceptance means saying, this emotion is here. It's okay that it's here. I don't have to like it, but I can allow it to be. When you stop fighting the emotion, you stop feeding it energy. It can then run its natural course and dissolve. Tara Brach, a psychologist and meditation teacher, calls this radical acceptance. She teaches that when you stop abandoning yourself in the face of difficult emotions, when you stay present with kindness, the emotion loses its charge. Principle 3. Physical regulation. Your body and mind are not separate systems. Your emotional state is deeply connected to your physical state. If you want to detach from destructive emotions, you need to regulate your nervous system. When you're emotionally reactive, your sympathetic nervous system is activated. You're in fight or flight mode. Your heart rate increases, your breathing becomes shallow, stress hormones flood your system. In this state, rational thinking is nearly impossible. To detach, you need to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode. And the fastest way to do this is through your breath. The Navy SEALs use a technique called box breathing or combat breathing to stay calm under extreme pressure. Here's how it works. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, breathe out for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts. Repeat for at least 2 minutes. This simple practice immediately begins to calm your nervous system. It's physiologically impossible to remain in peak emotional reactivity while breathing slowly and deeply. The breath is the bridge between your conscious and unconscious mind. Other physical regulation techniques include cold exposure, progressive muscle relaxation, and vigorous exercise. Find what works for you, but understand this: you cannot achieve emotional detachment while your body is in a state of high activation. Principle 4. Cognitive reframing.
Your emotions are largely created by your interpretations, not by events themselves. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "People are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them." Two people can experience the exact same event and have completely different emotional responses. Why? Because they're interpreting the event differently. Someone cuts you off in traffic. One interpretation: that person is a reckless idiot who doesn't respect others. I'm being personally disrespected. Result: intense anger. Another interpretation: that person might be rushing to an emergency, or maybe they didn't see me, or maybe they're just having a terrible day. Minimal emotional reaction. The event is the same, the interpretation is different, and the interpretation creates the emotion. Cognitive behavioral therapy is built on this principle. When you change your thoughts, you change your emotions. But here's the key: you don't change your thoughts by positive thinking or affirmations, you change them by questioning them. Byron Katie developed a method called The Work based on 4 questions. Is it true? Can you absolutely know it's true? How do you react when you believe that thought? Who would you be without that thought? When you question your interpretations rigorously, many of them fall apart, and when the interpretation dissolves, the emotion based on it dissolves too. Principle 5. Values-based response. This is the final principle about choosing your response based on your values rather than your emotions. This is where emotional detachment becomes emotional intelligence. You've observed the emotion, you've accepted it, you've regulated your physiology, you've questioned your interpretations. Now you choose how to respond based on who you want to become
And what matters most to you? This is the space Viktor Frankl talked about. In that space between stimulus and response lies your freedom. Ask yourself, what would the person I want to become do in this situation? What action aligns with my deepest values? What response will I be proud of tomorrow, next week, next year? When you're angry at your partner, your emotion might scream at you to attack, withdraw, or punish. But your values might say that love, kindness, and connection matter most. You can feel the anger fully, accept its presence, and still choose to respond with love. This is true strength, not the absence of emotion, but the ability to choose your actions regardless of emotional state. 4. The practical daily practice. Now let's turn these principles into a practical daily system you can implement immediately. Morning practice, setting your mental foundation, 10 to 15 minutes. Start your day before your emotions have a chance to hijack you. Before you check your phone, before you encounter any external stimulus, establish your observer self. Step 1. Sit comfortably and close your eyes. Spend 2 minutes just observing your breath. Don't control it, just watch it. This activates your observer consciousness. Step 2. Do a body scan. Notice sensations in your body without judgment. Tension in your shoulders? Notice it. Restlessness in your legs? Notice it. This develops your capacity to observe without reacting. Step 3. Set your intention. Ask yourself, who do I want to be today? What values do I want to embody? How do I want to respond to challenges? Write down 3 values you want to live by today. Examples: patience, courage, compassion. When you morning practice is like putting on armor before going into battle, you're strengthening your mental resilience before you face the emotional challenges of the day. Real-time practice, the RAIN technique. When you're in the middle of an emotional reaction during your day, use the RAIN technique, developed by Michelle McDonald and popularized by Tara Brach. R. Recognize. Notice that an emotion has arisen. Simply acknowledge it. There's anger here, or anxiety is present. A. Allow. Let the emotion be there. Don't try to push it away or change it. Create space for it. I. Investigate. Get curious about the emotion. Where do you feel it in your body? What thoughts are attached to it? What might it be trying to tell you? Approach it with gentle interest rather than harsh judgment. N.
Non-identification. You are not the emotion. You are the awareness observing it. They will pass like clouds. Now, from this place of detachment, you can choose your response. Maybe you take a deep breath and ask clarifying questions. Maybe you make a note to discuss this privately later. Maybe you thank them for the feedback and commit to improvement. The key is you're choosing your response rather than being hijacked by reactive emotion. Evening practice, integration and learning, 5 to 10 minutes. End your day with reflection to integrate what you've learned and strengthen your detachment muscle. Step 1. Journal about one moment today where you successfully observed an emotion without being consumed by it. What did you notice? How did it feel to create that space? Celebrate this win, no matter how small. Step 2. Journal about one moment where you were emotionally reactive. No judgment, just honest observation. What was the trigger? What emotion arose? How did you react? What could you do differently next time? This isn't about beating yourself up, it's about learning. Step 3. Gratitude practice. Write down 3 things you're grateful for today. Gratitude shifts your nervous system out of threat detection and into appreciation. It's one of the fastest ways to regulate your emotional state. Step 4. Set an intention for tomorrow. Based on today's learning, what's one specific situation where you'll practice emotional detachment tomorrow? Advanced practices. Once you've built the foundation with these daily practices, you can add more advanced techniques. Loving kindness meditation. This practice involves directing compassion towards yourself and others. Research shows it increases positive emotions and decreases reactivity. Spend 10 minutes offering phrases like, "May I be happy," "May I be peaceful," "May I be free from suffering," to yourself, then loved ones, then even to difficult people in your life. Deliberate discomfort. Voluntarily expose yourself to minor discomfort to build your tolerance. Take cold showers, do difficult workouts, or fast occasionally. When you can remain calm and detached during physical discomfort, emotional discomfort becomes easier to handle. Mindfulness in daily activities. Turn routine activities into practice opportunities. When washing dishes, be fully present with the sensation of water, the smell of soap, the movement of your hands. This trains your mind to stay in observer mode rather than lost in reactive thought.
5. Common obstacles and how to overcome them. As you practice emotional detachment, you'll encounter obstacles. Let's address the most common ones and how to navigate them. Obstacle 1. This feels like I'm suppressing my emotions. This is the most common confusion. Remember, suppression is pushing emotions down and pretending they don't exist. Detachment is fully feeling the emotion while not being controlled by it. You're not saying, "I shouldn't feel this." You're saying, "I feel this, I accept this, and I choose my response." Big difference. If you find yourself suppressing, you'll notice tension, numbness, or emotions coming out sideways in passive-aggressive behavior or physical symptoms. If you're practicing true detachment, you'll feel more alive, more present, and more in control. Obstacle 2. What if I need my emotions to motivate me? Some people worry that detaching from emotions will make them passive or unmotivated. This is a misunderstanding. Emotions can be useful information. Fear can alert you to danger. Anger can show you where your boundaries are being violated. Sadness can indicate what you value and have lost. Detachment doesn't mean ignoring this information. It means receiving the information without being hijacked by it. You can notice anger and use it as fuel for setting a boundary rather than fuel for destroying a relationship. You can notice fear and use it to prepare rather than paralyze. The Stoics made a distinction between natural emotions and destructive passions. Natural emotions arise, provide information, and pass. Destructive passions consume you and dictate poor decisions. Detachment is about the latter, not the former. Obstacle 3. I can detach in calm moments, but not during intense situations.
This is normal. It's like learning any skill. You start in easy conditions and gradually increase difficulty. Don't expect to master emotional detachment during your biggest crisis if you haven't practiced during small inconveniences. Start small. Practice with minor annoyances, the person who cuts you off in traffic, the slow internet connection, the long line at the grocery store. As you build the skill with small challenges, your capacity grows. Eventually, you can maintain detachment even during major life events. Also, remember that intensity is relative to your nervous system's regulation. If you're chronically stressed, even small things will trigger intense reactions. Prioritize nervous system regulation through sleep, exercise, nutrition, and stress management. Obstacle 4. People might take advantage of me if I don't react emotionally. Some worry that staying calm and detached will make them a doormat. The opposite is actually true. Emotional reactivity is a sign of weakness, not strength. When you blow up in anger, you've lost control. When you're manipulated into guilt, you've been controlled. When you react defensively to criticism, you've been triggered. True power is maintaining your center while clearly and calmly setting boundaries. You can say no without anger. You can walk away without drama. You can stand your ground without losing your composure. In fact, people respect and even fear calm strength far more than emotional volatility. A person who remains unshakable is far more formidable than someone who explodes at every provocation. Obstacle 5. This takes too much effort. At first, yes, it requires conscious effort. Your default mode is reactivity because that's what you've practiced for years. Neural pathways for reactive behavior are strong. But here's the truth. Emotional reactivity also takes enormous effort. It's exhausting to be tossed around by every emotion. It's draining to constantly manage the consequences of reactive decisions. It's tiring to live in a state of chronic stress. The effort you put into developing detachment is an investment that pays dividends for the rest of your life. And like any skill, it becomes easier with practice. Eventually, detachment becomes your new default. 6. The transformation, living as an unshakable person. When you master emotional detachment, your entire life transforms. Let me paint a picture of what becomes possible. You become unmanipulatable. When you're no longer controlled by your emotions, others can't control you through your emotions. Guilt trips don't work. Emotional manipulation fails. You see through attempts to trigger you and simply don't take the bait. This is true freedom. You make better decisions. Every major decision in your life becomes clearer when you're not clouded by emotional reactivity. Career choices, relationship decisions, financial investments, you approach them from a place of clarity rather than fear, desperation, or impulsivity. Your relationships deepen. Paradoxically, when you detach from your emotions, your relationships improve dramatically. You stop making your partner responsible for your emotional state. You stop creating unnecessary drama. You respond to conflict with wisdom rather than reactivity. People feel safer around you because you're stable and predictable in a good way. You develop genuine confidence, not the fake confidence that comes from external validation, but the unshakable confidence that comes from knowing you can handle any emotional state. When you're not afraid of your own emotions, you're not afraid of much. You access peak performance. Athletes call it the zone. Psychologists call it flow state. It's that state of optimal performance where you're fully engaged but not emotionally attached to outcomes. Detachment is the key that unlocks this state. You find inner peace. This is perhaps the most valuable transformation. When you're no longer at war with your emotions, when you're no longer trying to control external circumstances to control your internal state, you discover a peace that isn't dependent on anything outside yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." This is the promise of emotional detachment.
Not a life without emotions, but a life where you are the master of your internal experience, regardless of external circumstances. Let me share what this looks like practically. Imagine receiving devastating news. Maybe you've lost your job. Maybe a relationship has ended. Maybe you've experienced a significant failure. The emotionally reactive person spirals. They catastrophize. They make the situation mean something terrible about themselves. They make decisions from panic or despair. They push away people who could support them. They turn to destructive coping mechanisms. The emotionally detached person feels the full weight of the situation. They feel the sadness, the fear, the disappointment, but they observe these emotions without being consumed. They think, this is painful, these emotions are intense, and I can handle this. They take time to process. They reach out for support. They ask, what can I learn from this? What's my next step? They make plans from a place of clarity rather than reactivity. Same situation, completely different response, completely different outcome. This is the power of staying mentally unshakable. 7. Your commitment moving forward. We've covered a lot of ground today. You now understand what emotional detachment truly is, why it matters, and exactly how to develop it. But understanding isn't enough. Knowledge without action is just entertainment. The question is, what will you do with this information? Here's my challenge to you. For the next 30 days, commit to the daily practice. 10 to 15 minutes in the morning, the RAIN technique when emotions arise during the day, 5 to 10 minutes of reflection in the evening. That's it. Just 30 days. Mark it on your calendar. Tell someone about your commitment for accountability. You won't be perfect. There will be days you forget. There will be moments you get completely hijacked by emotion. That's okay. That's part of the process. What matters is that you return to the practice. After 30 days, assess honestly. Has your relationship with emotions changed? Are you making better decisions? Are your relationships improving? Are you feeling more inner peace? I promise you, if you do this work consistently, your life will transform in ways you can't even imagine right now. Remember, every person who seems unshakable, every individual who maintains their composure under pressure, every leader who makes wise decisions in crisis, they weren't born that way. They developed this capacity through practice. You have the same capacity within you. You have the ability to observe your emotions without being consumed by them. You have the power to choose your response regardless of what you feel. You have everything you need to become mentally unshakable. The Stoics have a practice called memento mori. Remember, you will die. It's not meant to be morbid, but to remind you that life is short and precious. You don't have unlimited time to become the person you're capable of being. How much longer will you let your emotions control your life? How many more opportunities will you miss because fear held you back? How many more relationships will suffer because you couldn't regulate your reactions? How much more inner peace will you sacrifice to emotional chaos? Or will today be the day you decide differently? Will today be the day you commit to developing this skill that will serve you for the rest of your life? The choice, as always, is yours. I believe in your capacity to do this. I've seen it work in my own life and in the lives of countless others. This isn't theory. It's a tested, proven method. Start today. Start small, be patient with yourself, and watch as you transform into someone who can weather any emotional storm and emerge stronger. Thank you for watching. If this video resonated with you, do me a favor and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe if you want more content on mastering your mind and becoming your best self. Remember, you are not your emotions. You are the vast, unshakable awareness observing them. Now go practice. Your mentally unshakable life is waiting for you.